when we're talking about decoding supply chains of tomorrow, sustainable value chains are going to become the most important boardroom agenda. How do you make the value chain sustainable right from the raw material procurement up till the last mile delivery to the consumer, which looks at everything from procurement to manufacturing to supply chain, logistics, and last mile. Given the context, I would like to start my first question with Dr. Gupta. How is sustainability going to impact supply chains, and how can companies derive value from making their supply chains more sustainable?
Greetings and good morning to all of you. So many thanks to Supply Chain Tribe, many thanks to Charulata for this entire opportunity. Industry 4.0, or what we call as the digitalization, and sustainability are the two key mega trends which are impacting the supply chains of today and of tomorrow. There are several ways by which sustainability is like really reshaping the supply chains of tomorrow. I would like to go deeper into 4 ways in which sustainability is impacting supply chain. The first impact is in terms of decarbonization of supply chain. Now, if you have seen all large corporates, whether it is Tata Group, Mahindra Group, ITC, L&T, almost every corporate has declared that they will become net zero by 2040 or 45 and 50 maximum. Now, when we say net zero for a corporate, that means they have to become net zero not only for scope 1 and scope 2, they have to become net zero for scope 3 as well. Now, scope 3 has got a very, very large component of supply chain emissions. So if a company has to truly become net zero, any corporate has to become net zero, then they have to reduce carbon emissions from supply chain. There is no escaping that. So that is one big trend, which is decarbonization of supply chain, which is going to impact supply chains of tomorrow. Second sustainability impact that I foresee is in terms of circular economy. So there is a huge movement which is right now, which is happening from maybe a linear economy to a circular economy. In linear economy, we talk about take, make, use, and dispose. Okay. Now, in a circular economy, what we try to do is we try to remove these 2 boxes of take and dispose, and we try to create some kind of a closed loop system. Now, as far as supply chain is concerned, supply chain role comes in the first box, which is in terms of take. Now, there are increasing pressure on supply chain or procurement officer not to procure what we call as a virgin material and replace this entire virgin material with recycled material or maybe modular material or biodegradable material or compostable material. So that is also going to really impact the procurement teams and the supply chain in coming times. So that's a second big impact that I see of sustainability on supply chains. The third big impact that I see is in terms of regulations. Now, we have seen BRR, which used to be there, that got transformed into BRSR. BRSR has now become BRSR Core. Now it is getting extended to value chain partners also. We now have EPR, which is now getting more and more stringent also. Carbon market would be there in another couple of years. So there are more and more regulations which are coming in, which are related with environment and sustainability, and which are really going to impact the supply chains of tomorrow. I would like to talk about one particular regulation which I believe would have a very, very significant impact on supply chain, and that particular regulation is called CSDDD, which stands for Corporate Sustainability Due Diligence Directive. Now, this is a regulation which is coming up in Europe. European Parliament has already approved it, and it will become a law by 2026 in several countries in Europe. Now, this particular law, or CSDDD, is also called as a supply chain law, and it mandates all the large corporations in Europe to do a due diligence of all their supply chain partner, or what they call as a value chain partners, up to nth level. So they are responsible for human right violation and environmental violation up to any level. So just to give you an example, suppose there is a Zara or H&M, and if they are procuring, say, garments from Bangladesh, and if there is a human right violation in a factory in Bangladesh, then Zara or H&M in Europe would be punishable and they would be imposed fines. So that particular law across the world is going to be very, very significant, because somewhere our supply chains are also tied to global supply chains. And if similar kind of a law comes in, say, US also, or maybe tomorrow in India also, that will also have a very significant impact on supply chains. The last impact that I want to talk about is what we call as a climate change or physical risk which are there. So with climate change, more and more physical events which are happening in terms of extreme weather, and these are causing supply chain disruptions. Now, just to give you an example, suppose there is a supplier of yours and there are cyclones which has happened there. Or if you have to deliver material to your customer and there is a flooding which happens to your warehouse. Or suppose you have a manufacturing plant and that has to be shut down because people are not able to report because of droughts. So these kind of scenarios are going to more and more happen as we move forward in future because of the extreme weather events which are going to happen because of the climate change which is there. So supply chain leaders really need to plan for what we call as the climate adaptation also, and they have to really plan their future around that. So these are the 4 key impacts that I feel are there of sustainability on supply chain. And to sum up, I would say the impact of sustainability on supply chain is quite profound and pervasive across all functions of supply chain. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Aditya. That was very, very well put. In fact, there is already a lot of conversation happening on the 4 points that you spoke about, scope 3. Though from my experience, I think scope 3 is still kind of in a nascent stage, very, very difficult to manage, more like a black hole. Circular economy, yes, a lot of manufacturing companies are working towards circular economy. Then obviously the global impact of rules and regulations on supply chains, very, very important. Because a lot of Indian companies also are suppliers in some manner or the other to their global counterparts. And also the human rights and the climate change, again, very important parts of the whole ESG agenda which now companies are driving. So thank you for putting it so well. Coming to you, Anil, Aliaxis has been taking a lot of initiatives on sustainability. So we would like to understand how does your company approach sustainability and what are your targets for net zero?
So, hello everyone, good morning, and thank you Charu for inviting me here to be part of this conference to share my thoughts, and also looking forward to a great learning experience today. Aliaxis, we are based out of Europe. Brussels is our headquarters, and we follow, as Dr. Gupta mentioned, we are bound for European regulations, which are, I think, one of the most stringent globally. So we have commitment towards decarbonization. Sustainability is at the core, and to some extent, I think all of us, but we in big way, are part of the scope 3 for some of our customers. Right? So then we have bigger responsibility of helping our customers achieving net zero, achieving decarbonization goals, and also working with our suppliers so that they can achieve these goals in 10 years, 15 years, 20 years timeline. So as a strategy, I think sustainability is at core. We have products which helps our customers being more sustainable, which I'll talk about later during the day. And in terms of our strategy, while we have a long-term strategy, we also we divide into 4 parts. The short-term, which is we look for opportunities where we have challenges. There is high impact on the environment and also on the economics. So we look for the sweet spot where technologies are available. It is more sustainable. It helps solve sustainability challenges. And then we work with those partners, which is short term. Mid-term is there are solutions at very nascent stage, and we want to be early adopters. We work with those partners in terms of developing the solutions. Many of them are suppliers. And third is long term, where we work with academia, like Dr. Gupta, in terms of developing the concepts and working with industry partners, sometimes with our competitors also, when it comes to sustainability. And the 4th category, and the first one is just do it. There are multiple solutions which are easy to adopt. So we were talking about in the morning route optimization, network optimization, uh, forecasting, making sure that you don't have crisscross movement of the goods. Your trucks are not just faring in the country. We are a large country, right? One detour of the product could mean some 700, 800 kilometers extra. So there were cases, so we still have cases where we sent product from Bangalore to Delhi and got it back, you know, so and delivered in Bangalore to our customers. So those kind of problems, I think those are that comes in just do it section.
And you have formal targets. You already spoke to us that you are a Europe-based company. So, how are your formal targets decided on the Scope 3 emissions on net zero?
So we have, it's not the same with each country. So while we have one is as a one corporate goal for our multinational company worldwide, but in different countries we have different level of development of our value chain. And so in India, for example, in Australia, we use 100% renewable energy because ecosystem was developed. In Australia, we have a big part of our product portfolio is 100% recycled material. No? And one of the reason is we get premium, 20 to 25% premium. So because Australian, we do a lot of work for governments in most of the countries. So Australian government, they actually incentivize their suppliers to use recycled materials. In India, probably it will happen. And when economics come in, there'll be more startups, there'll be more partners working on it, and that's how it works. We have seen that in EV. You know? I think there'll be a time when EV won't need subsidies. But initially it was required to get the ball kicking.
Right. One point, Anil, you made was about collaboration. So while collaboration with academics and suppliers and all is happening, that really happens. But you also spoke about collaboration with competitors. Now that's something which really needs, you know, a very hard ice to break, because there would be insecurity. There would be a lot of does it mean a lot of insecurity, or how do you build trust when it comes to collaborating with competitors?
Actually, if you see in your industry, sometimes it looks hard. But when you see global, slightly wider perspective, I'll give you a social example. You know, there are certain things which are like taboo in Haryana and not so much in Bangalore, you know, and vice versa. If I come from automotive, I started with DCM Shriram, then worked with Honda. And if you see Maruti Suzuki, they are making many cars for Toyota now, right? Nissan has been making cars for Renault, and you know, so in automotive, I think it has been there for many decades now. Other industries, they need to pick up. FMCG, I worked with the FMCG, and so we have this subcon or contract manufacturing. I think it's one of the examples. So where, so there is a product category called eclairs. I think most of us might have used, right? And there are three leaders, Cadbury, ITC, Nestle. In that category, they have like 80% market share in eclairs. None of them have scaled. But there is a subcon, which has got this large, massive, very efficient factory, which is benefiting all three. So all three companies, they make eclairs in one factory on one line. And then you have different products, which is more sustainable, more efficient. So I'm sure things will. So one request to all supply chain leaders is being open. Is there somewhere those solutions? So keep looking for beyond your organization, and most importantly, beyond your sector. That's extremely important.
Thank you for that, Anil. Dr. Gupta, coming to you, Anil also spoke about issues in transportation.
Sure.
So transportation as a service, how do you make that sustainable? And so the government is giving subsidies for EVs, so that's one way. but what are the various ways where we could look at making transportation sustainable without a lot of impact on cost or on economics?
Sure, definitely. So when we talk about decarbonization of supply chain, obviously decarbonization of transportation is the most important element of it. And I hear a lot of supply chain or logistics managers saying that there are not enough EV vehicles which are available in India, and that is the reason we are not able to decarbonize. But EV is just one part of it. There are several more things that can be done in terms of decarbonization of transportation. What I will do is I will divide this entire thing into two parts, two buckets, controllable and non-controllable. And when I'm doing this bifurcation, I'm assuming that a logistics manager or a supply chain manager is outsourcing their transportation to a 1PL or a 2PL or a 3PL partner. So once you outsource your transportation to a transportation company, there are certain things which are efficient things, but you are not under your control. So just to give you an example, suppose say driver behavior can have an impact on fuel efficiency, not under your control. Hiring of efficient vehicles can reduce emission, but not under your control. Route planning can again have an impact on fuel efficiency or the total fuel that has been used, but still not under your control because you have outsourced it to somebody. Or maybe alternate fuels like green hydrogen, LNG, or maybe EV also, that is again not under your control because not enough options are available. But there are a lot of other things which are under your control, and that is what I would like to talk about. Now, first thing that I would urge all logistics manager and everybody to look at is in terms of modal shift. Okay. Now, please very, very carefully look at entire supply chain and look for opportunities of moving cargo from air to road, from road to rail, and rail to water, wherever it is possible. So that can have a very, very significant impact in terms of your emissions. Second thing that I would like to talk about is in terms of load consolidation. So say if you are sending 2 10-ton trucks, and instead of that, if you move a 1 20-ton truck, then you are reducing your emission by almost 30 to 40%. So we have with us Mr. Dinesh and gentleman from Herbalife, and they have been doing a lot of work around this load consolidation. So they have been shifting their cargo from courier mode to FTL mode, even in FTL mode from a 12 ton to 15 ton, 15 ton to 20 tons, and that has been giving them a very, very significant reduction in terms of emissions, and they've been using our tool to project that reductions also. So I think Mr. Dinesh will also talk about that. So that's one of the ways that it can be done. Another method that I would definitely urge is in terms of network redesigning also. So if you really look at your network, you would find a lot of opportunities in terms of maybe load consolidation also or reduction in extra trips also. So that could be another way which can be looked at. Maximizing the cube of the vehicle also, whether it is container or the vehicle. So I think as long as we are able to fit almost every inch of that, so that is also a step in the right direction. As a logistics manager, perhaps we can influence the secondary packaging also. So if we can lightweight the secondary packaging or do some kind of things about secondary packaging also, that can also have an impact. EVs may not be available as far as say mid-mile is concerned in terms of HCV and MCVs, but there are EV options which are available as far as last mile of the first mile is concerned. So last mile is another area where perhaps we can do something about EVs as far as India market is concerned. We have enough 3-wheelers and 4-wheelers which are available to deliver. So that's another option that perhaps logistics manager can look at. One more suggestion that I have is in terms of choosing the logistics or supply chain partners also. Okay. Now there are companies, I would take say, if you talk about a company like say TCI, who are a sponsor to us also at our center. So TCI is extremely aware about carbon and decarbonizations and emissions, and they are doing a lot of actions around that also. So when you are choosing your 3PL partner or a 2PL partner, look for partners who are aware about emissions and who are making enough effort to reduce their emissions. Because if they reduce your emission, in turn your emissions also goes down. And the last action that I would suggest is that whatever you are able to do, please measure and report your emissions. So first step in any kind of a transportation mitigation exercise is to measure your emission. So once you measure, then only you will be able to report and you will be able to showcase as to what kind of a reduction you have achieved. So at IMB also, we have developed one particular tool which allows you to measure your emissions from transportation. So it allows companies to measure emissions from all modes of transportation. And very recently, we got a ISO certification for that tool also. So right now, it is the only ISO certified tool in the country to measure emission from transportation. And even government at ULIP level is also using the same tool. So yeah, that's another thing. So I would definitely urge everybody to measure also, so that you can set your baseline and then start your journey from there. So these are some of the actions which are definitely possible, which are under control and can be implemented. Thank you.
A lot of practical solutions have been given by Dr. Gupta. I hope you all have noted them and probably take it up with your teams and start implementing some of them, because sustainability is here to stay. We need to create a better world, a more greener, at least get back the resources to where they were years ago before manufacturing started. So, taking forward the conversation on transportation, Anil, what actions do your company take both in India, and if you could give some international examples in terms of transportation?
Yeah, so first of all, I'm loving this chat
emissions,
session. So
yes.
Dr. Gupta bring the concepts and I can show the application. So one good example that Dr. Gupta shared is the trucks, the sizes, for example. A 40-foot container will always be more fuel efficient, more environment friendly than a 10-foot container, right? So, so one most important thing that we have done in India specifically in last 2 years is that network optimization. I'm sure most of you would have done it in your life multiple times, network optimization. So making sure that we have moved in last 1 year, we have moved almost 20 production lines crisscross in the country, because we believed it was better to move the lines than to move the trucks crisscross. So it's more environment friendly to move resin or the raw material than the finished good, because then you have lesser loadability in the trucks, etc. I'll give you an example. So we have a product called Aqua Life, which is fresh water, probably one of the few products which is National Sanitation Foundation certified in India. The biggest demand was in East and biggest production was in Bangalore. So we created space in our Orissa factory and in West Bengal factory, and we moved those lines. So and as Dr. Gupta was mentioning, we have to see end-to-end supply chain. So my practical experience in industry, working in manufacturing, procurement, supply chain, and now on more on business side, I think the biggest problem that startups have been able to solve, whoever successful startups were, connecting the dots and connecting the various silos that we had. In corporate is a long way to go. And the bigger the organization, bigger the silos, bigger individual functional achievements, and lesser focus on end-to-end problem solutions. So, for example, manufacturing and supply chain, I think they can solve a lot of sustainability problem. I gave you one example of moving the lines and not moving the product. This is one example. Second thing is also the way we select the suppliers, sourcing, etc. So so Reliance and Camplast, these are two big suppliers, and Reliance is closer to Bhiwadi, Rajasthan. So we try that our Rajasthan, we don't send, and then Camplast is in near Pondicherry somewhere. So we see that our south factories are more served by this supplier. So we reduce raw material movement also to greater extent. We are setting up a factory in Chennai for export, so that our time to the ships and the distance to the ships is reduced. Emission goes down. So these are few, I can share examples in India itself. One of the biggest challenge that I have seen, and there is a lot of work to be done, and I was speaking to Dr. Gupta during tea in the morning. So my business partners, they hate this word forecasting. I don't know. How many of you are from planning background? Yeah? So do you talk to your sales guys? Do they love this word forecasting? No? Yeah, nobody loves it. Yeah, I don't want to give examples. No, there are few things that you don't love anymore, but you have to live with that. So forecasting, I don't know whether it's the right words. There are many companies which comes with these TOC solutions, and then the way they pitch, they say like, you will not have to do forecasting anymore. You go this buffer stock and minimum stock level management, etc. But I'm not talking about the word forecasting, but there is a lot of crisscross movement. So imagine, I'm coming to this. I have to come to attend this summit, and I go to the airport first and then come back. It's ridiculous, it's silly, but most of our goods do. So you, on the basis of forecast, you move your. I'm sure most of you have distribution planning, right? So the moment you get forecast, you try to move your goods as close to your customers or demand centers as possible, your distribution centers, and then you realize that your product is not required there. I again give example. For example, you have huge demand for a product in Delhi. You move all, thousands of tons of stocks to Delhi, and then suddenly at the month end, your sales guys say, I have a demand in Calcutta, and why are you not serving? And then you have trucks, some of them not fully loaded because your customer needs it urgently, right? So imagine the kind of negative environment impact that we are creating. And I have a friend, who says that if not all problems, most of the problems are data problems. So if you can look at data properly, analyze it properly, get insights, get algorithms running, I think we can create a lot of positive impact or minimize negative impact on the environment.
Absolutely. We've spoken about transportation, forecasting. Coming to procurement, Dr. Gupta. So ethical and sustainable procurement is getting priority across all Indian and large MNCs in India. So what are your suggestions, again, practical inputs on making procurement more sustainable?
Sure. So when we say sustainable procurement, it has got two parts, sustainable product and sustainable supplier. So when we say sustainable product, then obviously we are talking about a less virgin material and more biodegradable material and those kind of a thing. But that's slightly a difficult thing to achieve for supply chain alone, because we have other partners into that also. We have R&D team, we have to engineering team and other things. Then only we are able to find out a real sustainable product. But when we talk about sustainable suppliers, now sustainable supplier is something that is completely a supply chain function. And that's where supply chain as a team can really influence. So there are multiple ways that that a supply chain manager or a supply chain organization can build sustainability in their supplier ecosystem. The first thing that I would suggest is to have a supplier code of conduct. Okay, so that is a very, very powerful document. And I would like to really mention about one particular organization which is a very successful supplier code of conduct called IKEA. So IKEA has a supplier code of conduct called IWay. And any supplier who has to supply to IKEA has to first sign that particular supplier code of conduct and prove their social and environmental credentials before they supply. So that is at a level 1. And within 1 month of supply to IKEA, they have to move to level 2. And then after that, IKEA really works with them to take to them to level 3 and level 4 also. So supplier code of conduct is a very, very powerful document. And if you see a lot of other organizations, a lot of other multinationals also have implemented that. So that can really improve the sustainability within the supplier ecosystem. So that's the first thing. Second, when we talk about supplier selection, so most of the procurement managers typically look at Q, C, and D as a criteria to select supplier. But I would urge that along with Q, C, and D, please add S also to it. So if you have Q, C, and D, and S, S is the sustainability credential of your suppliers in terms of their environmental systems and social performance and others also. So that can also make a lot of difference. Third thing that I would suggest to the audience is something called a concept called whole life costing or life cycle costing. Now, what happens is when we are procuring goods, we are looking only at the acquisition cost. But there are a lot of other costs which are there, which we call as a life cycle costing. So suppose we are buying one particular equipment, then it will have an acquisition cost also, it will have an operating cost also, it will have a maintenance cost also, it will have an end of life cost also, and it will have what we call as a carbon cost also. So if we combine all these particular costs, that is where we arrive at what we call as a whole life costing or a life cycle costing. And when we compare life cycle costing of two products, that's where the real comparison comes in. So just to give you an example, suppose you are talking about, say, there is a toss-up between, say, electric forklift and a diesel forklift. Or if you are trying to procure a normal motor versus maybe a VFD kind of a motor. So in all these particular scenario, if you do a whole life costing or a life cycle costing, you will see that you arrive at a very, very different solution as compared to what you see in terms of only an acquisition cost. So that's a third suggestion that I would like to make. Fourth suggestion is in terms of supplier engagement. Now, this entire sustainable procurement is not, I would say, a singles game, it's a doubles game. And both company and the supplier are on the same side of the court. So you need to really, really work with your suppliers. You have to train them, you have to quantify their emission, handhold them, and then that's how the entire value will be delivered. At IIM Bangalore, we worked with a company called Schneider Electric. So Schneider Electric is one of the companies which is extremely evolved in terms of their sustainability practices. And last year, we documented how they are engaging with their suppliers, how they are building sustainability in their supplier ecosystem. So that we have written as a complete case study. And I think that particular case study would be there in public in some time. So I would definitely urge all of you to look at that, because that's a tremendous learning which is there. So the way they are implementing sustainability in their ecosystem, that's amazing. And the last thing that I would like to talk about is the team, okay, which is a procurement team. Now, all your procurement managers also need to be trained in sustainability, and they also need to carry some kind of a KPI for sustainability in their KRAs. Because unless until they are excited about sustainability, then only the sustainability is going to happen. And this is something that most of the good organizations like Schneider Electric and others have already implemented. So every procurement manager is trained in sustainability and carries KRAs related to sustainability. So these are some of the actions which can be taken and on the sustainability supplier side, which can build a sustainability procurement. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Gupta. That was another round of lot of practical inputs on becoming sustainable from procurement point of view. Coming to you, Anil, you had mentioned that you are a supplier to many companies because you provide chemical and water transmission solutions. So how do you ensure sustainability as a vendor?
So globally, part of our research, one of the major criteria, again, we are lucky to have originated from Europe. So in our design process, sustainability is the core. And we have analysis, I don't know whether it's an industry term, Dr. Gupta, cradle to grave, no. So we do that analysis, and it starts from where we're gonna, so first it starts the product or solution. So we don't talk about product, we talk about solutions. So the solutions that we are offering to our customers, is it gonna help them to decarbonize, to create positive impact on the environment? That is one. Second thing is, then we talk about how this product is gonna made and deliver to our customers. So which starts with sourcing, what are the material we're gonna source? What is its environment impact? Are there greener substitutes in terms of material? Then once we have selected multiple materials, then we go to sources. So I'll give you example of PVC, So there are 6, 7 technologies with which PVC can be made, and some of them coming from our neighbors, not so sustainable, right? It's cheaper but not so sustainable. Sometimes we are able to get greener and more economic solutions, but not always. And in that case, we have to educate our customers and sometimes say no also to our customers, customers. So we talk, there are some customized solutions that we make, and if we believe that it requires sourcing, despite our best efforts, it requires sourcing from the sources which are not so good for environment, we rather say no to our customers. Then, because once you say yes to your customer, you providing solution, and then you tell customers that we are not happy continuing it because it is made somewhere in that part of the world which is not good for the environment, that becomes a challenge, living with the problem. So this cradle to grave analysis, now most of our products have got 40 years, 50 years, some of our products have got 100-year life. But now what we are realizing is, for example, in India, we've been in India for almost 30 years now. So some of our product, which I'd say 25 years life cycle sounds a lot, but now we are about to complete 25 years. So we are doing two things. One, we are collecting data and analysis. Probably 25 years, so we are seeing that some of the products can live for another 25 years. So extending the product life cycle, that is one. Second thing is, how do we get it back? How we make it as a recycled raw material to our customers. Again, few reasons, like PE, I think people who are from FMCG background, most of these shampoo bottles and HDP, it is made with HDP. I think India as a country has made lots of progress. We have multiple very, very big startups now who are into recycled material of HDP. PET, which is your water bottles and your soft drink bottles. We have made good progress, but not as good as Europe. Now in Europe, you have, so most of the recycling that you have in is for not food grade products. Mostly it's shampoo and other home cleaners, etc. But in Europe now you have PET, which is food grade, recycled, allowed in water bottles, right? So we have to develop that kind of confidence. In PVC also, now in Australia, we have multiple partners, and we sometimes, those partners are so small, they cannot stand on their own. So we actually invest in those startups. We own part of that startup ecosystem. So we have a company called LEX's Next. So that company and board of that company, full-time job is identifying startups who are into sustainable solutions. And then we do funding for those startups, help them become big. And then sometimes we choose to integrate those companies back into our mainstream, or they're also free to find external fundings. So this is how, one big example, India, so we are into, one of our mission is to ensure that globally, and more so in India, making sure that everybody in India has access to clean water. Now it sounds, living in Bangalore or Mumbai, it sounds very, very easy. You open the tap and you get water, but not so easy everywhere in India. There are people who die. In Delhi, capital of India, you might have seen May or June, I think, just before elections, people dying, trying to get the water from these water tankers, So Indian government, they have a mission called Jal Jeevan Mission, which talks about lakhs of kilometers of a big pipeline. Now these pipes are mostly made of ductile iron. Now, I don't know how many of you know that iron or steel has got more carbon footprint than plastics. I have not seen any steel factory which doesn't use coal. We are still yet to invent greener way of making steel. So that is, huh? We'll talk about, maybe Dr. Gupta is going to reveal some greener solution for making steel today. So, so one is the way the steel is made. Second thing is it corrodes very, very fast. It's difficult to maintain. It's very, very heavy. And the capital to make ductile iron, I mean, you cannot have ductile iron factories. You cannot have 6 factories in Bangalore to make ductile iron closer to your installation. It means it's going to be mega factories far away from the application. You have to transport those heavy pipes into the trucks for thousands of kilometers. And it's very difficult to install. It means installers will always have shortcuts. The shortcuts will lead to water leakages. So the way we talk about, I think many times there were government schemes and there was so much leakages by the time. So if you send 100 rupees, the central government, the leakages in the system is so much at each level, hardly 1 rupee reaches the farmer or end beneficiary. Same thing in water. So you have a beautiful reservoir or river from where you are sending the water to the town or village, but by the time it reaches there, there are so many leakages. So now we have solutions which are 4 or 5 times lighter than ductile iron, has got lesser carbon footprint in terms of manufacturing. Those are leak-proof, very easy to install. And now we are bringing IoT solutions also. So where you can track the pressure, the flow, and the leakages anywhere in the system. So we also have a startup on stormwater. So stormwater is a problem in Bangalore, largely in Mumbai, Delhi also. But that could be a good, if you are able to route that water properly, collect it properly, that could be life-saving. So those are some of the solutions which we are working on. Most of our transmission solutions are also designed in such a way that it minimizes friction. So it means the energy that you use for transmission of chemicals or water or in future hydrogen, it uses minimum energy. That's also positive impact on the environment.
Thanks, Anil, for all these examples. Now, very quickly, Dr. Gupta, you've been giving us practical inputs throughout this discussion, and you're running the Supply Chain Sustainability Lab at IIM Bangalore. So what is it how can the audience benefit from these kind of activities?
Sure. So, so we have a lab called Supply Chain Sustainability Lab. That is something that we've been running for about 1.5 years now. So there are whatever activity that we are doing at this particular lab, I would divide into 4 C's. And so these 4 C's are content creation, coaching, collaboration, and consultancy. So I would go a little deeper into all the 4 C's. So we being a research institution, obviously content creation is very, very important. And content creation we are doing in multiple ways, starting with tool building, research, case study writing, white papers, thought leadership article, and book chapters. So at our center, we have built 2 tools. One is a transportation emission measurement tool or TEM tool, which allows organizations to measure their emissions from transportation activity. Another tool is again a supply chain tool where a particular company can extend that particular tool to their MSME suppliers, and the suppliers can come to our tool to measure their emissions. Okay, so it's again a supply chain tool that we have built. And it will allow also to measure what we call as the BRSR core parameters for your suppliers. So that's another feature which is there in that particular tool. Beside that, we do conduct research. So we have multiple research assignments which are funded also, non-funded also. We work with NHAI, DG Shipping, MPRI, several organizations in terms of funded research projects also. Case study writing is also something that we have been doing. So we have written 1 case study for Schneider Electric, just to this one. So we have written 1 case study with Kalyani Steel. Kalyani Steel came up with the first green steel in India. So their entire journey of developing this entire green steel we have documented as a case study. We have written a case study with Sun Mobility also, which is in terms of battery swapping also. There are multiple case studies that we are writing. So that's also one of the ways that we can engage with any organization in terms of if you have implemented something worthwhile, then we can document as a case study, and our case study are getting co-published with Harvard, so it becomes some kind of a Harvard case study as well. Then we write white papers also, so we typically engage with organizations also, associations also to write white papers. We wrote 2 white papers with Ashok Leland. One was in internal carbon pricing, another on green finance. So they were looking for a knowledge around that. Then we contribute thought leadership article to various magazines and others also. So that's another thing that we do. We do contribute book chapters also. So these are the multiple ways in which we create knowledge or content creation. Then being a research institution, obviously coaching is also very, very important. So executive coaching on sustainability is also something that we do. So there are programs which happens at IMB campus also. I am a faculty for Institute of Corporate Affairs also, so I participate in that also. And we go and deliver lectures to multiple organizations also. So say sometime back I delivered a lecture with Dell also. With the 3PL company I delivered a lecture. This month end also I'm delivering a lecture. So again it's an invite from, it's an offer from my side. So any particular organization, if you want us to come and deliver a lecture on sustainability, we would be happy to do that. And it's a dissemination of knowledge for us and we don't charge for that. So that is second part of this one, which is in terms of coaching. Third is in terms of collaboration. So we do collaborate with like-minded organizations which are in the same space. So we have MOUs with, say, IIT Madras, we have Bureau of Energy Efficiency, GIZ, Smart Fit Center, so many other organizations we have which are in the same space, and we work together in terms of joint event, joint white papers and others also. So that's another thing that we do. And lastly is in terms of consultancy, not a big one for us, but what we have done is we have built about 3-4 products. One is in terms of companies can maybe engage us in terms of building sustainability for their supplier ecosystem also, or measuring their emissions and others also. Or we can approach MSME sector for their entire carbon emission journey also. So there are some consultancy projects also that we have built, and that's what we also deliver to some of the organizations. So these are some of the ways in which we are trying to influence or do make a bit of a contribution in terms of building sustainability within supply chain. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Gupta. So Anil, to wrap up, so what are your strategies for the future for making your supply chain more resilient and sustainable? And we need a brief answer so that we can open the floor for questions.
Sure. So one, as Dr. Gupta mentioned, and you opened the floor, sustainability has to be, so it is at the core of our business strategy, and it is at the core of our supply chain plan. And as I transitioned from factory floors to procurement and supply chain and now business, one of the things that I learned, I was very proud of my supply chain strategy at some point of time, but I've stopped quoting supply chain strategy. So recently my VP supply chain, he presented supply chain strategy, so we scrapped the first slide, strategy. I believe that there is only one strategy, which is business strategy. And then there are plans to support business strategy. And business strategy, what we see has to be centered around customers. So if your strategy is around sustainability and your customer doesn't care about sustainability, you cannot work in a V-shape strategy. Whatever you do has to lead to something that your customer truly values. You know? And so either you introspect whether your strategy is correct, or if you believe that it's valuable, then you educate your customer so that he start valuing it. But you don't start the work until you believe that whatever you do is going to help your end consumer being happier, more enriched. What we also believe is that you have, so our supply chain strategy, simple plan of our supply chain is whatever we do in supply chain, it has to be meaningful for our customer, you know. So I'll give you one simple example. So we have these big builders, Shobha, Prestige, these are our customers. and they have these daily plumbers, right? If and to finish, say, 10 bathroom, a plumber left home to finish 10 bathrooms in a day, and he has got everything but 2 fittings are missing. And he earns, say, 300 rupees per day or 400 rupees per day. So plumber is our customer. And if he loses so we try to maximize his earning through our offerings. So every time our customer service improves, it means we give on time in full. We don't see it just a number, we see a direct impact on the livelihood of a plumber, you know. So that's how we see. Or, for example, if we have these multiple incidents, so there are like, in Bangalore, there are 1 lakh bathrooms which needs to be done, 100 got delayed. So we don't see it as just a number. We see that Charulata's flat got delayed by a year because we could not serve on time. So we are customer-centered, customer-obsessed to an extent. So, and what I have seen in last 10, 20 years, we need to definitely have plans. So we need to have analysis, we need to have plan, and then we need to reset, recalibrate these plans very, very frequently. Earlier, if you do it, you make annual plans and you evaluate it every quarter or so and fine-tune it. But I think the change of, the pace of change is so fast. There are elements which you can afford to review every quarter, but there are few elements which you need to review every month, and there are items which you need to review every day. So, for example, when you order something on Swiggy, they don't come and ask you, why are you ordering Milky Mist today? You buy Amul every day, right? They find out ways to serve you. So similarly, every company, I believe, my supply chain team now, they spend a lot of time in the field. Now, to be able to spend a lot of time in the field, we use technology. So there are many things where we are using AI now, has eliminated. So there are multiple, so we are reducing the desk work by using technology. And we encourage our people to go in the real world, spending more time with the customers, understanding their developing needs, sometimes educating them about expecting more from their suppliers. So, so our strategy for future is, one, bringing positive change in the life of our customers, which means delivering good quality products, better service, and minimizing the losses, and hence delivering most cost-effective solutions to our customers. What is affordable in Europe is a luxury in India, so we are conscious about that, and hence, so we have a solution for the building. So when you have these high-rise building, you see a big sound and sometimes these stinking smells, right? So there is a solution called Papa in Europe, which you have to spend like around $3,000 for one system for one tower, and in India we were able to make it in $200. So that is something. We have only 3 global R&D centers. One of them is in Bangalore. And sales, marketing, supply chain, manufacturing, they work very, very closely to make sure that our customers, they get integrated, sustainable solutions. So my advice, it has worked for me. Do not have a stand-alone strategy. I have seen multiple supply chain teams achieving all KPIs, all green KPIs, everybody achieving 5 ratings, but customers are not happy. So designing your KPIs, designing your incentives in such a way that your customer truly appreciate it.
Thank you, Anil. So thank you, Anil, Dr. Gupta, for your inputs, and I hope the audience are taking away some practical to-dos from tomorrow. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, panelists. Your insights have actually truly justified our theme, Decoding Supply Chains of Tomorrow.